bend.
Sorry?
Miss curve, यहाँ पे bend.
Yes. So a loop, it's like normally there's like a loop in, let's say, a shoelace, right? Or कोई round सी चीज हो तो उसको loop कहते हैं, right? तो basically what that means is a loop is a repetition of something. कि एक चीज बार बार repeat हो रही हो, एक loop में repeat हो रही हो, that is considered a loop basically. And there are three kinds of loops that we're going to talk about. Just it's something that's round, right? So it starts from one place and ends at the exact same place it started. So it goes around in a loop. But it has a condition. Like it's not gonna be के in like infinity times ये वही loop चलता रहेगा एक ही चीज repeat होती रहेगी. There's commonly a condition at which you need to repeat it. For example, हम ये कह सकते हैं कि मुझे like let's say I want the names of 50 students like entered in like a program, okay? So instead of like अगर loops नहीं होते, अगर हम सिर्फ like normal coding कर रहे होते, instead of entering 50 names in 50 different variables and storing them all separately, student 1 का नाम, फिर student 2 का नाम, student 3 का नाम, instead of doing all of that, I'm gonna use and like entering them in different lines. Okay, output enter first name and then input first name, or फिर होगा output second name and then input second name. मतलब it's gonna take a lot of lines, right? 50 स्टूडेंट्स का मुझे चाहिए, सो 50 एक आउटपुट का होगा, एक इनपुट का होगा, एंड उसके हिसाब से डिक्लेरेशंस भी होंगी. So you can assume like 50 into 2 at least, so there are 100 lines, and then plus the declaration lines, जो भी जितनी भी हो. That's like a lot of piece of code just to enter the data, the names of 50 students. तो इसके लिए हम एक loop के like we've developed something that's called a loop. कि repeatedly the program automatically asks for the user to enter those 50 names. Like it'll just be like 3 or 4 lines of code जो कि बार बार repeat होंगे so that the 50 names of the students can come in.
Okay, miss.
Okay, do you understand?
Yes.
All right. So, So basically, the first loop that we're going to talk about is the for loop. Or just if thana as a condition statement. There was if, then, else, and if. So for the first loop we're going to talk about is the for to next loop. So that's like its format. So pseudocode includes these three different types of loop structures: a set number of repetitions, a repetition where the number of repeat is not known that it's completed at least once, and a repetition where the number of repeats is not known that may never be completed. So the first one, where a set of number of repetitions is defined. So for to next loop is basically telling you, it's basically the loop you use when you know exactly how many times you have to repeat it. जैसे मुझे पता है कि मुझे 50 students का data enter करना है, so I'm gonna do for students 1 to 50, like, and then input the name or whatever, and then next student. So this way they'll know to start from the first one, and until the student is not equals to the student number, or the counter is not equals to 50, it's just gonna keep repeating itself,
Okay,
right?
miss.
Or इसी तरह से the second kind of loop we're going to talk about is the repeat until loop. So it's like repeat, and then the 3 dots is like a block of code. So repeat this block of code until some condition. Let's say students, we could use the same thing as here as well. It's up to you. जैसे if or case था, इसके बीच में you could choose whichever one's more suitable. इसी तरीके से repeat until or for to next में भी है. So repeat, well, like input name or whatever, and then until the student counter is equals to 50. Yeah, it could be like that too. And then the last one is a repetition where the number of repeats is not known that may never be completed. So this one is while some condition exists, do this code and then end while. So it's like while, let's say while the sun is or maybe while raining is true, matlab it is raining, do this block of code and then end while. So it's the loop is going to be exited once it stops raining.
Miss, while do and while loop आप दोबारा समझा दें.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I could use the same example as the 50 students one as well. I could say while students is not equals to 50, do this code, like an input name or output enter name and then input name, and then end while. You understand?
Yes, miss.
Okay. So the difference between these two, though, so मतलब we might be like ये like loops को तीन तरीके से करने की क्या जरूरत है? You could do the same thing by three different ways. I just told you how to do that. Again, the point of this is that sometimes, जैसे for to next में, sometimes you're given the range, so the best thing you could do is use for to next. Other times, you don't have the set amount, the number of times that you have to like run a program. So in that case, but you know that the program has to run at least once. That's why you have repeat until. So it's like repeat this block of code until this. So it has to run that block of code at least once, and then it checks the condition on the until part, and then it repeats the loop again if they have to, depending on the condition. And then while do end while may, again they're checking the condition before the block of code. So if that condition is not fulfilled before the loop starts, then that whole loop will be skipped. So basically what this means is that for to next is a precondition loop, and a while do end while is also a precondition loop. Repeat until is a post-condition loop. Because for to next and while do end while may, they're telling you the condition before the loop starts. So that's why it's precondition. And then repeat until loop is like a post-condition loop because they're telling you the condition after the whole loop ends. And that's when you're checking it at the end.
Okay, miss.
Okay, so let's look at all of these in like a little more detail. All right. So for the for to next loop, let me write this in triple dot here so that you know where the code comes. For and then the condition for some variable of some value to the some other value, and then the block of code, and then next variable. For this loop, the first thing you should know is that it's a precondition loop. And this one's commonly used when you know exactly the number of iterations. Iteration means the number of times something has to be run, the like 1, 2, 3, 4, like how many times it has to be run. Okay. And I could make like a little structure of what the code will look like. Like for, let's say x is given 1 to, let's say 100. And then the code starts here. Do 4, 2, and then like the code starts here. Like whatever code you have, you can have if statements inside this as well. It's basically designing a program, right? So you can add and remove as many things as you like depending on your problem, and as long as it's fulfilling the solution to your problem. And then 4, 2, and then the next will come here, next x.
Okay, miss.
Okay. Now let's take an example. Here they said, all right, so the formal definition is a variable is set up with a start value and an end value. So this here is your start value, and this is your end value, your 1 and 100. And this variable is incremented in the steps, incremented, iterated, or the next part, that is all meaning the same thing, that you're moving on to the next value of the variable. To say x is 1 to 100, right? So right now, in the first iteration, it's going to be x is 1, and then the second iteration would be x is 2, and then the third is going to be x is 3 until 100. It's just going to keep going like that. And incrementation or incremented basically means +1.
Okay, miss.
So this is variable, the variable that's to be incremented. Or actually, I'll write iterative, and I'll tell you why later, but iterated. All right. And then the variable can be used within the loop so long as its value is not changed. This type of loop is very useful for reading values into lists with a known length. So as long as you know how many times you have to repeat it, you can use for to next. So in this block of code here, it says for counter is given 1 to 10. The counter starts at 1 and finishes at 10. That's what this line means. And then output, enter name of student. They're asking the user to enter a name, and then they input the name of student. So input student name, counter. So this here is a variable of an array type of string. So do you know what an array is?
No, miss.
So array basically जैसे हमारे पास वो मतलब string like student name is going to be string, right? Like because you know a name has to be in a sentence of some form or a group of characters. So first of all, we know that student name is going to be a string, right? So I'll write that down. So student name is going to be of some kind of string. And यहाँ पे जो आगे लिखा है ना square bracket बना हुआ है and then counter उसके अंदर लिखा हुआ है. This basically denotes that this variable is an array, not just a normal variable. It's an array type variable, which means that an array is basically a list of variables of the same data type, which you need to use commonly. So this is if I didn't have an array, I would have to declare a separate variable for every student name. So I would have student name 1, student name 2, student name 3, and then up till 10. So that's taking a lot of time and space. So to condense that, they have something that's called an array. So this array would look something like this. So student name, and then iske right side पे there's going to be like the index of this. So yeah, यहाँ पे जैसे counter लिखा है. So it's going to be a list of the names, like 10 names. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. इसके अंदर नाम लिखे होंगे, and then at the right side, this I or this counter would be like the first name, second name, third name, fourth name, fifth name, sixth name, seventh name. इस तरह से चलता है.
ठीक है.
ठीक है. So right now, जैसे अगर first iteration पे, and that means the counter की value is 1, right? So that means that that this input thing actually says student name, and 1. So this means कि जो first data storage space है हमारे पास array के अंदर student name का, उसके अंदर input करिएगा, like this area right here. And इसी तरह से जब next counter पे जाएंगे, यहाँ पे counter लिखा होना चाहिए. Next counter पे जब जाएंगे तो फिर that would be हम 2 पे आ जाएंगे ना, तो 2 वाले area space के अंदर जो भी नाम है यहाँ पे लिख दें. जैसे it could be any like Alex for example. यहाँ पे Alex लिख दिया, input कर दिया. Third name पे मैंने जैसे Sarah enter कर दिया. तो it's all gonna be incrementing with this denotion. And later I could do something like code के अंदर I could say maybe I could say output. Let's say I want to output the 5th name in the list. So I would say output student name. I can't see it once again. Right. So output student. I'll write it here. Student name. मुझे 5th name चाहिए ना, so I'm just gonna write just square bracket के अंदर 5. So output this. So जो भी 5th name था मेरे पास already stored is going to output that. So 5th के अंदर let's say मेरे पास input में like I add your name, right? Say Ishal was the 5th name. So screen पे it'll just say Ishal for this code.
ठीक है.
All right. Do you have any question with arrays?
No.
All right. Okay. So basically, they're using this. Let me erase all of this once again. So they're using this array of called student name counter. It's actually going to be called student name, and then counter के अंदर जो भी value है at that moment in time will be there. But declaration में, since you already know that 10 size का array होगा, you're gonna declare it by saying declare student name, और फिर square bracket के अंदर you write 10 as a string. That's it. So square bracket के अंदर normally you denote the size of the array कि मुझे कितना बड़ा size चाहिए. So just for example, I need 10 names inside, so I'm gonna make a size of 10. If I wanted marks of like 50 students, then I would say student marks and then square bracket के अंदर 50 as integer. You understand?
Hmm.
All right. So ये चीज हो गई. इस code में it's actually here. Array item student name 1 to student name 10 have data input. So once you've written down enter name of student, is going to input the name at whatever counter or iteration it's on, and then next, meaning next counter पे चला जाएगा. अगर 1 पे था तो फिर 2 पे चला जाएगा. अगर 5 पे था तो फिर 6 पे चला जाएगा. अगर 10 पे था, then it won't even process this like part anymore. It'll just end the log. It'll just end the loop there.
ठीक है मिस.
All right, so let's try like an example. One second. Let's say I want to make a program that I'll write the question here as well. Write a program that displays very similar, displays numbers from 1 to 15. So now you see this question and you see that, they asked you to enter, display the numbers, all the numbers that come in between 1 to 15. So they gave you a range. This is the first way you know that you need to use a for loop. ठीक है?
ठीक.
And since they said it just the program code actually has to just display the numbers. So let's just start by declare. I can make any variable name. I can call it counter. I could call it num. I'll just call it num since I have to. Or actually, I'll make it counter since I already know that, it's gonna be easier to understand. So counter as integer since they said 1 to 15, right? So integer. And I want to use this as my loop as well. Since I don't need to, I'll show you what I mean actually. For. So the first thing I'll write is for counter is given 1 to 15. Now here the indentation and then the code starts. So output, I can just output counter since my numbers and my counters are going to be matching throughout, right? I could just write counter. And then next counter.
मिस नेक्स्ट का मतलब कि ये खत्म हो गया लूप.
Yes, this denotes like the end of the loop or end of the for loop or next iteration पे move हो जाएगा. तो जैसे अभी once you're let's try making like the क्या कहते हैं उसे like the dry running the program or जैसे trace table कह सकते हो. So इसका जो वो running होगी program की it's just going to display सबसे पहले declare counter. So there is a variable called counter. Counter का मैं वो बता देती हूँ कि what's the status of whatever is being stored inside the counter. So सबसे पहले you have counter is 1 to 15. So सबसे पहले 1 था. 1 के अंदर it says output counter. So output में मेरे output में आएगा 1. Since counter output counter ही कर रहे हैं तो फिर जो भी counter के अंदर था वही output में आ रहा है. And then next counter. अब मेरे next counter पे 2 हो जाएगा जैसे counter like counter plus 1 हो जाएगा basically. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So 2 और फिर मेरा code के अंदर है output counter. So जो भी counter था वही output आ रहा है. So 2 again here. And then next counter is going to be 2 plus 1 3. And then 3 को ही output करना है in this line. So 3 और इसी तरह से it's going to keep doing that until it reaches 15. So 4 4 5 5 6 6 7 7 8 8 9 9 10 11 12 13 13 14
मिस हमने
and
1 ऐड करना है में.
हाँ जब हम like आपके जो for loop की condition है, right, this is automatically just increments means +1.
ठीक है मिस.
Right? So जो भी counter, it's like next counter means like counter +1 basically. That's here. Do you have any question?
नो मिस.
Okay, अभी तक समझ आ रहा है सारा?
हाँ जी.
Okay. All right, so that was just the for loop. Obviously, it won't always be as simple as this. कि एक code है अंदर. You could have if condition statements inside the loop. You could have cases inside the loop and nested ifs inside the for loop as well. Like it's up to you how you like decide to code it. But जितना simple या जितना let's say like efficient हो program उतना better होगा.
मिस इसको इफ स्टेटमेंट में यूज करना है,
Sorry?
इस लूप को इफ स्टेटमेंट और केस ऑफ स्टेटमेंट में यूज भी करना है.
That could happen as well. It depends. मतलब normally ऐसा नहीं होगा कि वो if के condition के अंदर like then के बाद आप कह रहे हो कि loop शुरू हो रहा है. Normally it won't be that complicated. Normally the loops will start off like this itself, like अलग से आप बिल्कुल declare के ही indentation में.
ठीक है.
So repeat until loop के ऊपर आते हैं. All right. So repeat until loop is a post condition loop. And the unique thing about this one is that the code has to be run at least once. क्योंकि repeat के बाद आपका यहाँ पे code आ रहा है और फिर उसके बाद आप condition check करो, post condition है, उसके बाद condition check करो. So whatever the code is, it has to be run once before checking the condition. So it's the code will be run, or I'll say the loop actually. The loop will be run at least once. Okay. So the structure of this one would be like repeat आ गया and then इसके साथ indentation के साथ code होगा जो भी code है whatever code you have under this and then until here and then your condition. So like until let's say x is 10 or maybe until the flag is false. या इस तरह से कुछ भी हो सकता है. You understand?
Yes, miss.
All right. Okay, so let's look at the formal definition. This loop structure is used when the number of repetitions or iterations is not known and the actions are repeated until a given condition becomes true. The actions in this loop are always completed at least once. This is a post-condition loop as the test for exiting the loop is at the end of the loop. So like you can see in this example here in the textbook, the first two parts where they're declaring some variables, they're initializing them, koi value de rahe hain. Variables total and mark are both initialized to 0. And then the loop starts here. Repeat this block of code here. Total is given total plus mark. Output enter the value of the mark or -1 to finish. And then input mark until mark is -1. So basically what they did here is that this block of code, this, let me get the pen out. So this block of code is, one second. Right. So this entire thing is repeated again and again until and unless the user enters mark as -1. Okay, basically आपके screen पे इस तरह आ रहा होगा कि like enter value for mark -1 to finish. So you're gonna keep entering student के marks like 5, 15 out of 100 maybe, so like 75, 100 इस तरह करते रहेंगे and until the user enters -1 क्योंकि maybe -1 exist ही नहीं करता वो marks में इनके पास, then -1 means exit the program. So in this case, exit the loop, and that's it.
ठीक है मिस.
ठीक है? Do you understand this?
हाँ जी.
All right. So the key here is that initially when the first iteration is happening, like when the first time this code is run or the first time the loop is run, the like the user has to enter at least one mark. So उसके बाद ही वो कोई -1 कर सकेगा. Like even the first one could have been -1. Maybe the user, the first mark this person entered was -1 to end the program. It still ran the program though, right? कि इधर आउटपुट तो फिर भी उन्होंने किया एंड इनपुट भी फिर भी किया है, चाहे वो -1 एंटर किया हो शुरू में, चाहे वो 50 एंटर किया हो, कुछ भी हो. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So right. So that was the repeat until loop. Let's take some kind of example for this also. Um, let's do something like just के total उन्होंने भी किया हुआ है. All right, maybe I want to write a program that like finds out the percentage of mark. And I'll take something like I'll make some exit condition as well. Okay, maybe let's say I already have the marks stored, but I need to calculate and display the percentage. Okay, so actually, नहीं, अगर मेरे पास already marks stored है, then I'll know okay exactly how many like how many क्या कहते हैं how many iterations there are. That's just easier to do with a for loop. So instead of doing that, let's have input marks as well. So let's say write a program. Let's say displays like pass or fail. So isme you're gonna have the repeat loop because it says just enter marks. It didn't tell you how many times you have to enter marks, but you know that you have to enter the marks at least once. That's how you know कि ये repeat until loop use होगा. ठीक है?
जी.
So finds percentage. So code के अंदर you have to enter the mark, find the percentage, and display pass or fail. So how are you going to do this? And you can, since I didn't specify कि किस condition में pass or fail होगा, you can make something up on your own. Let's say कि 50% से like greater than 50% है, or sorry, अगर greater than 50% है, तो फिर like the marks, then pass. Otherwise अगर lesser है, sorry इस तरह होगा, lesser है तो फिर fail. राइट तो ये मैंने अपने लिए कंडीशनिंग बता दी है एंड आई विल मेंशन दिस इन द आउटपुट एज वेल ताकि जब मैं कोड कर रही हूँ देन माय एग्जामिनर अंडरस्टैंड्स एज वेल कि मैंने ये चीज लाइक एज अ कंडीशन रखी हुई है सो लेट्स से let me code from here ताकि confuse नहीं हो first of all I'm going to declare what variable should I be declaring
Marks.
marks as I'll just take integer
बस
only
हम real कर सकते हैं.
real भी कर सकते हैं that's even better I just took integer ताकि वो complicated नहीं हो अभी चीजें लेकिन it doesn't actually matter since the code will be the same
ठीक है.
so marks और मैं percentage को भी as real ही लेना है ना मैंने तो फिर I'll just take percentage and marks as real all right so the reason I made percentage separate is because I needed I needed to store somewhere right percentage को as well ठीक है declare ये कर दिया अब I'm gonna write down repeat I'll start my code from here repeat फिर indentation के साथ output I want to enter marks first, right? So output, enter your marks. And then input will be marks, the variable name. Okay, once I have this as an input, I'm going to find out a calculation करनी है मुझे percentage कैसे निकालते हैं. So percentage के लिए, I'll write percentage is given. Percentage is given. Basically marks ऐसे find करते हैं ना let's say total अच्छा मैंने total भी नहीं बताया हुआ ना कि total कितना है marks का like out of how much is the paper or exam or whatever so let's just say कि it's 75 out of 75 a paper so like the marks is out of 75 now I'll use this you can just mention this on here so you and the examiner will understand as well if they have not mentioned it which they probably will so percentage is given marks in bracket में लिखूंगी marks divided by 75 and then into 100 ऐसे ही निकालते हैं ना percentage
हाँ जी.
so I did this और फिर ना जो भी मेरे marks की value है that's gonna be stored in percentage Now इसमें ये होगा कि परसेंटेज में मैंने स्टोर कर दिया. Now they said क्वेश्चन में ये लिखा हुआ था जब परसेंटेज निकाल दें displays pass or fail. So I'm gonna make an if condition कि मुझे पास और फेल की अलग अलग कंडीशंस है ना कि अगर 50% से ज्यादा है तो फिर पास है वरना फेल है. That's how I'll know.
हाँ
So
जी.
that's why I'm gonna make an indentation के साथ if here, if bracket में I'll write if percentage is greater than 50 or I'll say greater than equal to, right? मतलब अगर 50 exactly 50 है तो फिर वो क्या करे वो equals to 50 कर लेती है. Greater than or equals to 50, then यहाँ पे then output um above average, which so pass, or you could just write pass as well. It doesn't matter. I'm just doing this so that they realize कि मैंने 50 as a condition set की हुई थी. So यहाँ पे
ठीक है.
ये हो गया. अब else obviously अगर greater than and equals to नहीं है so it has to be less than, right? But then it's better if I say greater than equals to 50. You know what? I should make like an क्या कहते हैं a double check statement as well, right? क्योंकि अगर greater than equals to 50 है लेकिन अगर user ने 76 enter कर दिया 76 का तो marks हो ही नहीं सकते because 75 का paper था. So here I'll write percentage greater than equals to 50 or sorry, and where is that? Okay. And where is this? So slow. Okay. And percentage less than 75 or less than 76 मतलब equals to 75 भी तो हो सकता है 75 or 75. So less than 76 कर दूंगी ताकि it counts 75. Wherna I could have done percentage less than equals to as well. That would have meant the same thing. And less than equals to 75 as well. Percentage less than 76. Now then above average, so pass. Else if I'll say percentage is let's say less than or equals to or less than 50 agar less than average hai, and it has to be obviously it has to be like greater than 0 or greater than equals to 0. So I'll say percentage greater than equals to 0, then क्या होना चाहिए like fail, right? So fail.
बस हम below average दोबारा नहीं लिखेंगे.
दोबारा लिख सकते हो वो that I just did that since it's taking too much time to write down.
अच्छा ठीक है ठीक है.
Below average. And I just made this message on my own. You can make something else. You could say maybe pass since the percentage is below 50%. Anything that just gets your message across. क्योंकि जो भी आप output के quotation में लिख रहे हो, it's going to be printed as it is on the screen.
ठीक है.
I'll put this and then else एक और में लगाऊंगी सिर्फ else, not else if, because basically अगर 0 और 50 के रेंज में नहीं है और अगर 50 और 75 के रेंज में नहीं है, that means that it's some out of bound value, right? It means it's either greater than 75 or less than 0, which is invalid. But I'll say something. Oh, I actually forgot to do one more thing. Enter your marks. तो मैंने कर दिया, लेकिन इसकी condition में कैसे set करूंगी? I'll make something. I'll make a new I'll make another condition here. I'll write down here as well. Okay, enter your marks and enter -1 to exit. ठीक है. तो यहाँ पे the user will know कि अगर मुझे marks like मैंने बहुत ज़्यादा marks enter कर दिए हैं काफी students के और find out भी कर लिया if they're pass or fail, then I don't want to enter more. I will enter -1 in the marks और फिर automatically वो exit कर देगा. So else में मैं लिखूंगी कि like I need to consider -1 as well, right? So I'll just write here else if another else if let's say if percentage. Actually, अगर else if मैं कर रही हूँ इधर, I'm gonna do one more thing. I'm not gonna make the condition for percentage. I'm gonna make the condition for marks. क्योंकि अब marks हमें पता है ना कि marks out of bound है हमारा like